I'm alive. I think I'm alive. I have never done this before. This is terrifying to a man in his 50s. Anyway, hello, internet. My name is Eoin Colfer, and I am the author of. No, sorry, I'm reading that. I am the author of The Foul Twins and Artemis Fowl, and Oliver is just. Um, Jeffers is coming in now, I think. I may have pressed the right button. Oliver, we're connected. Yes,
That worked.
that like a 55-year-old man somehow managed to.
I think there must be somebody else behind the scenes doing this because I wasn't sure what to do there, and then all of a sudden you're talking to me. So I assume you're talking to me, or are you talking to everybody, and I'm just making this up?
No, I think Harlan Finn are probably around somewhere putting wires together, old men, to get him to do it. This is so nerve-wracking. I was like all day talk. Do you know Seamus? He's the hello Seamus. He's my kind of media guy. I was like,
Oh
so
yes, I met him. I think he got you into trouble a few times by agreeing to do interviews on your behalf.
I know. I think I went on a few trips.
And a few trips and a few book contracts perhaps as well.
Going.
But it's going. I mean,
Your moustache is magnificent. It has really blossomed.
it's come on. You know, I had to do something. The hair was getting annoying, so I cut it myself. Hence the hat tonight.
Oh,
I
wow.
also cut my son's hair, and his fringe is at a pure angle across his head like that because I took a chunk out of this side first.
Yeah, fashion.
But, yeah. But how is it going with you?
Good. I have to say I'm on the upper end of isolation because the boys are grown, as you know, and I think if you have young kids in like as you do in a small,
it's a very different story. Oh, right on cue. How did you get in here? I thought I snuck in here.
I thought you were fine.
Oh, look! Can you share with your haircut, the fringe that we did? So if we do that, see, look up.
Yeah.
See, yeah, fine job.
He can.
But yes, we attempted to make like a little bit of an office in the bedroom. We're not where we normally live. We were traveling and got caught out and ended up here. So we attempted to make like a little bit of an office in the bedroom so we could get away and do some work. But I think, as we've just seen, that is like a red rag to a bull or a moth to a flame. There's no hiding. There's no way.
I've especially enjoyed your readings.
I got money.
Here, get you out of here. Go. Take that money and go. Their favorite thing to do is to raid our wallets. When we were in Denmark on our year of travel, my daughter Mary, we just saw the contents of my wallet spilled out on the floor of this Airbnb, and there was one credit card and my driver's license that were never found. To this day. No.
I do hope that's going to be included in what we'll build. You know.
Well, no. What we'll build was finished before we went on that trip, and we can get into that. But yes, there's occasionally I try to catch up with friends. In the first couple of weeks, it was every night, have a glass of wine after dinner and do a Zoom or a FaceTime chat with a friend. And now it's more like once a week because I think just the fatigue is getting everybody. But there's definitely two different experiences going on here. There's those with young children and those without children, and well, or even slightly older children. It's different, but it's you're not quite off the hook. And you know, the first couple of weeks we were here, we were into it, we were fully engaged and embraced, and like we can do this. And then the notion of not knowing when it's going to end is a strange way to go about anything. Have you ever watched the temptation video, that the test that people are doing, where they film their kids with a marshmallow on the table, and then they say, if you can wait 2 minutes and I come back and it's still there, you can get a second one. But with this, we don't know when it's going to end. So it's definitely trickier. So the enthusiasm, and I went through a period where I was trying to do some work, and that just was obviously not going to happen. But I was also not being very present with we have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and it was just frustrating. And so I sort of gave up on the idea of trying to get any work done. And now our days are now that we can go outside a little bit, it's bike riding, learning how to ride a bike, and fort building and like Lego or specialities of the day.
Is there anyone in your studio in Brooklyn?
There is not. Well, technically there is. There's Stephen who worked with me for a year, sublet a little bit of the back place of the painting studio, so he's able to keep an eye on that. Okay, Harlan, you got it. Mama wants you. Yes, come on. Yes, we're going to talk about this soon. You got to get out of here. Okay, I'm getting invaded here. We've got the other one here. She can get her camera. There, she's just popped in. All right, both of you out of here. Okay, extra treats if you leave me alone for half an hour.
Yeah.
Nowhere to hide. Nowhere to hide. So just imagine trying to finish a thought. It's
well, I feel bad now because my life is pretty unchanged. I'm
just going to drink while you talk, Owen. Just
I can tell you're a little stressed.
Because it is actually. I give off. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I think it's been easier in a lot of ways because the kids are young and they're enthusiastic, and every day is the greatest day ever because they're 2 and they're 4. But I go back and forth. I used to go back and forth a lot more. Who had it easier? Those who were on their own, or those who were cooped up with young kids? And I definitely think that we have it easier than if I was completely on my own.
Yeah,
it's like it gives structure to the day, and these are precious little moments of watching human beings grow. And there's no circumstances other than this complete lockdown that I would have been so present for so long to notice the tiny little nuanced changes and developments that are happening. Because I would have been working and I would have been distracted, and those things are not the case.
Well,
right
now. I'm surprised to find that we have a 22-year-old Finn. You and Finn are quite friendly, and Sean, who's 17, and we've kind of started eating together again and talking. And I've realized they're better people than I knew because they're really rising to the occasion. Of Finn is cooking. That's my Finn. Is cooking dinner for everybody. They're both tidying up, and possibly the best thing is they don't get up until about 1:30. So that's. And then I go to bed at 10, so there's like a limited crossover.
Yeah, but you make it count.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah. And it's maybe a time at like a very impressionable time in their lives that you wouldn't have got the sheer sort of amount of not forced time but together time where it's if we're all just here we may as well talk to each other kind of a thing. And
but it is like that, and it's funny, but you're really close to your extended family now, and you probably can't go and visit them or do anything like that. Even though your dad's just down, probably.
He's just on the road. We can now, as of about a week ago, pop in and do visits. But one of the reasons that we ended up back in Belfast, of all places, is that my dad was diagnosed with cancer just at the start of the lockdown, which was not a great time for that. But he's about one of the most philosophically stoic people that I know. So he's handling it like a hero, but not to be. That's not surprising. Those who know me well know that I rarely go a conversation without quoting him in some ways. And his thought was, well, if you can't, first of all, he said, there's no perfect time to have a global pandemic. But if you can't change something, then you just change how you think about it. And that's what we've all been trying to do. So we've been here, and it's, yes, it's sort of, it makes you think about why when we're all running so hard and what it's for, really, in the end. Is it for the pure joy of working? Is it for some future recognition, some future goal? Or is it more important to relearning how to just enjoy a meal with your family and cooking from scratch? And
absolutely. So your family home now? Is everyone home? Or
this is the first time in 20 years that all 4 Jeffers sons are in the same city at the same time. So we've been in Belfast. We came in from Belfast by way of the North America. We were in Japan when this all started to happen. So I ended up back here.
Your big
the big trip got put on hold.
Is it on hold or is it gone?
Maybe gone. Who knows? Who knows what the future is going to be like? Who knows how comfortable people are going to be getting on airplanes and being so blasé about just last minute trips and just economy package holidays and all the rest. Now that we can see when everybody stops sprinting and we can see the clear, obvious evidence that the earth is healing and rebounding in the wake of a forced hiatus of human burning and consuming, it's going to be very difficult to not think about that, to just be so easy about,
I think with here we are, the earth healing and just being mindful where you are, what you have, and who else is here. And so we're forced into that right now.
Yeah, I mean,
if there is one good thing to come out of this, it's that you can see places like Venice healing up, and even the waters in Ireland now. All the beaches are clean now, except I think 5, which is an incredible number. So luckily the beach.
Even the Liffey.
Sorry.
Even the Liffey.
No, I wouldn't be. I'm not that. I wouldn't jump, but I am swimming here a little bit. So if you want to,
good for the health, we've heard.
Apparently so. I try and get down about 7 in the morning because there's no one down at that point. But
now, do you go for a swim, or do you go out and then go back and forth, or do you get your head wet and go and sit by the fire?
Yeah, if you looked at me, you might think something happened to that man. Is he okay? I was
very not of an audience.
Guards were stopping everybody, and they were. I was walking, and they never stopped me, and I was wondering why. And I realized they must think that man can't be too far away from a toilet. He's probably not going. He's not. Well,
if you put on a wetsuit and get out, then you can warm the wetsuit up from the inside out.
That's true. No, it's great.
Are you still trying to work every day then?
I do, but for me, I suppose, because the boys don't get up in the mornings, and Jackie is usually doing a 10K walk or something. So I've got, Jackie says hello, by the way. I've got a few hours I can just come out here and do a bit of work. So I found I've been doing a lot of short stuff, trying to do a few treatments and pitches and all that kind of thing. So
yeah. But do you have to do a lot of marketing and PR work for the Artemis Fowl film coming out?
The whole summer was we were off. This week we were going because it was coming out on the 29th of May initially. So all of May we're going to take a little holiday first in California and then do the thingy. But now it's just kind of online stuff. So. But we've done one, the satellite tour, where we just live.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I'm doing getting used to it.
Yeah.
People asking the same questions all day, every day, and I remember because you'd done it before. This was my first big sort of satellite tour where, for those listening, Owen and I made Imaginary Fred, and we went on the road with it. But for media stuff, so we were sat in a studio and patched into different places. And mostly it was radio, so we didn't even see the people. We were just earpieces. And people invariably, a lot of journalism has become quite sort of lazy, and people read the press release and ask the same questions. And you had been down this road before because your books sell in much larger numbers than mine do. But you've challenged me to come up with a different answer every time for the question how we met. And I think it was 22 different stories that were concocted on that same day, to the point now where I can't actually remember how we met.
But the best ramification was, by the time I remember we got to like the end interviews, they had heard the stories from the beginning. So it's like, I heard you two met at fishing sharks.
Yeah, I know the truth is a fragile thing. But you've obviously seen the film. You're happy with it?
I saw it a couple of months ago. It's really hard to watch something with people. So I was with the director and the star. So and Finn and Sean were there as well. Jackie couldn't make it, but it's good. It's very enjoyable. It's so, I don't know how you feel. I feel it's really hard to judge when something is based on your own work. That it's very hard to separate yourself. But
yeah, it is. I think
but I don't always enjoy the right word. I experienced it. I was definitely there when it was on, but I
Were you
was a
still
little bit.
giving notes at that point?
Oh no, no notes. There was no
No, but
like.
in your head, were you thinking like, oh, just sort of noticing little things?
Oh yeah, and there's huge things. Like there's big things and tiny things, and but I'm a bit like you in that I'm probably never happy, and that's the same with my books that I
Yeah,
would think. But it is a good movie, I think, and the boys really liked it, and I really liked the performances. And I know that Chris O'Dowd is playing you, but I have to say, Oliver, Colin Farrell's playing me, so I don't know. It's that one. I've
yeah,
no, I'm not in the book at all. I've claimed I said, yeah, I'm the father figure, so Colin
yeah,
Farrell.
yeah, yeah. So that's you. That's brilliant. Oh,
Yeah,
what a legend Colin Farrell is. I mean, Chris O'Dowd too. Two legends.
it is.
We produce good spuds in the island of Ireland.
Yeah.
But just saying that artists are never really happy with their work, I think that's completely true. I don't, looking back at all my back catalogue, I don't think there's one that I wouldn't make some minor adjustments to. And then when I had that the experience of working at Eden Press, which is this 200-year-old lithography studio in Paris for my book, The Fate of Fausto.
Yeah.
The artists that had worked there before were Picasso and Miro and Cézanne, and Patrice, the master printer there, was telling me that even artists like Picasso would
Yeah.
go into a museum and see one of his works in the wall and would attempt to touch it up, just to like it was never, the work was never completely done.
Yeah.
And so certainly for me, if I leave canvases lying around in my studio, everything is at risk of being slightly edited. So do you have old ideas that you would keep in a sketchbook and then bring
Yeah.
back out and try to work on?
Folder full of ideas. I keep, and it's very cleverly called the ideas folder. But when I get one-liners, and it could even be if there's a bird. If I could see a bird on a tree, I'd write that down. It's amazing what then your brain starts to assemble this jigsaw, and before you know,
Yeah.
it just kind of presents you with an idea.
So you're collecting little moments like the bird landing on the fence for a specific thing, or just that's a thing that I don't know what project it's going to go into yet?
Oh yeah, no. Usually, I have no idea where it's going to go, but you're as I said, you subconscious know, or it
Yeah,
before you do.
yeah. Well, how do you then prioritize what project you take on next? Because how many things would you have going on at any one point?
I usually would have three. I would have a morning project, which is main kind of my novel, which is usually foul related, and then in the afternoon, I would have a. I usually do an adult genre novel, so something like or plugged and screwed books.
So you're that specific about your time that mornings are for this project, afternoons are for this project?
That's just. I mean, that's what I say. But then
Yeah,
I get if I get that taken with something, I will keep going. And I love musicals as well. We're working on a musical with Liam
yeah.
Bates. He's a great guy. So we're doing a glam musical, 1970s glam music. So your dad might like that.
Yes.
He's Mark Bow, T-Rex.
My dad and my mum, the last concert they ever went to together was to see Gary Glitter before it was wrong to do so. And they, before all the tapes were discovered. But my mum was so joyous about the fact that she couldn't hear properly for 2 or 3 days afterwards because it was so loud. She was like, I can't do something. Because she had MS. She was in a wheelchair for years, and it had been quite a long time before she had been to something. She was like, I did it. I had a night out, and I'm paying the price for it, and sort of wore it as a badge of honor.
But that's actually the true first meeting was you told a story about your mum in New Zealand, and I was in the wings, and then I had to go on after
Yes,
you.
actually, that is how we met. So
But yeah, that was the first time. Yeah, and what about you? Your movie experience? Well, two things actually. I just watched your TED talk. That is the most. That's the most amazing TED talk. I mean, how did that happen? Who did all those graphics? Did you have must have all that?
no. Here's the well. So Ted had been talking to me for about a year prior, and the whole idea was that it would be a main stage talk in Vancouver on the famous red circle with the giant screen,
Yeah.
and I was supposed to be the artist that was headlining the main conference, and it was great. And it was going to be this whole thing, and then when we were in Japan, I was thinking to myself, that's not going to be happening. There's no way. Like everything is closing down. It's not going to be happening. And there was a conversation then about moving it to July. I was like, okay, I'm going to put it out of my head. I knew roughly what I was going to say at that point. I had probably 70% of the way there. And then we came back here at probably mid-March, and it was supposed to be in April, the main talk. And I hadn't really thought about it in a while. And at that point, it was like 3 days after we got here, Ted approached me and said, we want to do something online for Earth Day, and your talk is the perfect one for that. And my heart sank a little bit, knowing that I was then sacrificing, I would never be on the main stage. But I recognized that this is the message that people need to hear at this point. And I had a rough idea in my head what the visuals were going to look like, and I called in two favors of two friends. One with Studio AKA. Not that they actually owed me a favor, I just asked them if they would help out, and they said yes. And they assigned one animator, Christian, who was superb, and then an old friend from our college who works with an editor, and he's a cinematographer. And we went to his studio the day before lockdown started. We recorded 5 takes of me giving it. Then I spent about a week doing drawings on an iPad, and I worked with Christian at AKA and the editor, and the whole thing was put together in 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
From 3 separate bedrooms. It was put together in 3 weeks. And maybe there's like some of the really good projects, there's a rawness to them and an immediacy to them. And I think if we'd had too long and too many assets, it might not have come across just as pure as it did.
Well, it was perfect line. It just looked great. And I think when people start looking at TED Talks online, you're just expecting people in front of you on a stage. And that's what I was, and then all of a sudden, all this magic started happening. So
yeah. Right. I did. It was a bit weird afterwards, because this was going to be one of the biggest things that ever happened in my career. And in our heads, we were going to go to LA for the film launch of Here We Are, which was 3 days prior. Then drive up to Vancouver for the TED conference and be there with all these other incredible speakers for 5 days, and then go off on our travels. But instead, we were here. I made it in the kitchen, and then I watched the presentation in the bedroom where I am now. It's the only place we can sort of sometimes hide. And then I closed the laptop, and that was it. And I hadn't really thought further past that point. And so I went into a bit of a funk.
You would.
And I think everybody is going through ups and downs. There's moments of mild euphoria where you realize some of the more important things in your life, that maybe you were spent your energy on things that weren't worth the energy. But then there's also moments where it's everything feels a bit sad, and everybody's a bit down. And I've been talking to friends, and I think everybody I know is going through days like that and moments like that. And the one thing I keep hearing is, just whenever those bad days happen, is to just recognize them for what they are and wallow in them. Stay in bed all day if you need to, because listen to your mind and your body. It's times that have never been experienced. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and nobody, even me, the eternal optimist, can't be upbeat all the time.
No,
but then we go off and we go about our business. People need fed, and people need to learn how to ride a bike, and on it goes.
Well, when you've got kids, you kind of can't really wallow too. You have to get up and.
No, you can't really. That's the thing. But my cooking skills are getting a lot better. Cooking all day, every day.
You're raising the bar very high now for the rest of us. I've been for me, it's been a very zen time, because I can't be distracted by going. I used to go to a local coffee shop for 3 hours every morning with my laptop and work, but I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, I've just been looking at people with a lot of people from international, I suppose, Italy, Portugal, Australia.
All over, yeah. Italy there, I see, yeah.
We're supposed to be from people, but
well, I want to ask you a couple of questions as well. So you've got the new book is coming out. If it hasn't come out already, I've been a little Johnny on the Wall.
The Falcons, that was out, but the movie Time, which I really like, so that's out. And it's.
Do you know? See, when you're writing and you've got the structure down, you know roughly what's going to happen, and then I'm assuming you then fill it out for the emotion and the tension and everything else, or is it that you write the emotion and the tension and then sort of figure out where it's going based on that? Is it a skeleton that you flesh out, or is it a boulder that's rolling?
I think it's probably more a skeleton Because I do maybe a 2-page document for Steph, my editor in the US. So she commissioned it on the basis of that. So it kind of makes me plan it. Otherwise,
Yeah, yeah,
wouldn't. But I have started. I used to be very linear in that I'd start with go to the end.
yeah.
Now I'm really excited about a scene. I'll write that scene straight away, and I'll make it fit later on. So I'll have.
And are there certain scenes that you just put your pen down or your laptop or whatever and just finish and be like, yes, that is good. That I'm happy with. That I know I nailed.
I haven't got to that stage yet. Maybe 20 more years. I'm still very pure about it, I would say, and I'm not trying to be self-deprecating. I mean, every time I send in a book, I'm still waiting
Yeah.
to see what will come back.
Yeah.
So,
but are you one of the people that do you depend on validation from trusted sources or general sources to know that you've done it well, or is it more about how you feel about it?
it's kind of about how I feel about it. And when I've gotten my validation from Steph or whoever, how I feel about it then comes back to the source. That is how I feel that book forever.
Yeah.
I don't go back. I think when you're doing your shows or your readings, you can flick through an entire book. I would never. I don't think I've ever read any of my books from start to finish since I've written them. Just wouldn't. I mean, why would you? You spend a year. I write them 120 times. So I'm so
Maybe
sick
you
of.
should as an exercise that so you might not even recognize your own style of writing. I wonder.
When I did The Hitchhiker's Guide, for example, they did a radio that recently, and Dirk Maggs, a brilliant producer who produced for it, which is a big deal. He said, "Can I put some of Douglas's bits in? You know, because there's a lot of old Douglas bits." And I said, "Yeah." And then he sent me. I read the script for about half it, and I didn't know what I'd written and what Douglas had written. I just couldn't remember, and that's really bad. That could be me.
Is that bad or is that good? I don't know, because Douglas he's you're both great writers, but if
Yeah, but
you would probably never give yourself the compliment that you would give
it
Douglas.
would be his age. Like, it's not stuff that made it into his books. It's other stuff. So it's still brilliant. I mean, he's one of Douglas Adams, and I never even met him. And that we've talked about that, and that things you do as a writer that you don't know is that the right thing to do. I mean, if you do your own book, it's never the wrong thing, really.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not as fond of as others. When you take over someone else's, you're kind of going,
Yeah.
maybe I should have left that, dog. But it turned out.
Are you glad you did it though?
I don't know. Some days I am. Not one of those questions I've been able to answer for.
Yeah.
But I had the weirdest experience on that book because we did like a whole weekend Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in the South Bank Centre in London where you've spoken. And it was on the big stage, like 2,000 Hitchhiker fans. And there was a lot of, you could see it, like you could feel this weird vibe of people who didn't want to be there. They wanted everything to do with Hitchhiker, and the cast of the radio there. If you were a Hitchhiker fan, you were in London, you were going to go. So I was there, my reading, and I could just feel this like animosity from about a third of the audience who were going to get their book signed because for the collection, and this was
what you should do.
Yeah, this is what you got to do. And so I was signing, and it was the weirdest feeling. Most really happy, and then some people were, yeah, sign it. And then Sean came over. Now, Sean is 17 now, so he would.
Sean.
Yeah, my son Sean. Sorry, he would have been 7. 2000 would have been, and he was kind of cute, much like your little fellow there. He was a real cutie, and he sat down beside me at the table. He was fed up looking at me, and he just said, "Can I sign?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he took out crayons. You would have been proud of him. And I said, "If people want you to sign, you can sign." And the whole mood changed because I was angry at a 6-year-old with a crayon. And I slowed down the signing by about 2 hours. but it was worth it because
Yeah,
people just
that's great. Yeah, it's and I suppose actually, and thinking about this, is the reason that we're doing this chat on Instagram Live is it's for Father's Day, isn't it? Which is coming up. I think so. Is that what somebody said? Maybe
well,
it's not.
I didn't know that. I think that I'm trying to remember what our theme was supposed to be. It's something to do with I don't know. It says
Well, it's Father's Day in the US this Sunday, but I don't know if it's the same way. It's because the day's always changing. Because I have one foot in one and one foot in the other, it always confuses me. But the one that always gets me is, why is World Book Day in the UK different from World Book Day in the US?
makes no sense. It's
It
like
makes no sense. We should go on a campaign to unite the World Book Days so they're on the same day. Why not?
That's why there's all this trouble.
If I could accomplish one thing in this life,
yeah,
it would be that.
and I just say, I'm not. It's not political, but here in Ireland, I think our government is doing a really pretty decent job.
Yeah.
Leo Varadkar, our Prime Minister, like he's a guy who is spending a lot of his spare time back on the front line being a doctor, and that's pretty.
There's empathy goes a long way
Yeah.
in times of need and when dark storms are rolling in, and unfortunately several people who we could probably mention by name have zero empathy, and it's that little tiny emotion I think is probably the most powerful one of all. And as Michelle Obama always said, it was like true strength is not showing that you're stronger than somebody, but is pulling people together. So we in the north, because I'm probably 100 miles from you right now, we're in Belfast, you're in the Dublin area, and 2 hours drive, and thankfully in the north we've been slightly following the lead of the south, so we're in a better position than England are, and the Midlands, and it just goes to show, just looking after each other is about one of the most important and powerful things that we as people can do.
If you stick to that, just look after people.
Yeah.
Around.
Kurt Vonnegut said it best. There's only one rule that I know of. God damn it, you've got to be kind.
Yeah, you got to be kind.
That's it. That is absolutely it. Now, are we supposed to take questions from people? Is that what you were trying to say to me earlier on there?
We are.
Okay, I'm going to let you deal with this.
Well, there's one here about your art, your artwork, your fine artwork.
Okay.
Stunning portfolio paintings that have been exhibited in Brooklyn Museum, the Irish Museum of Modern Art, and what's the name of the Lazarides? Is it Lazarides?
Lazarides, yeah.
That's
Lazink, as they go by now.
Yeah, that's a brilliant one. But can you tell us, Mr. Jeffers, about your collections and what medium you work in?
Oh, dear God. I mean, we could be here for the next hour answering that question, but very, very briefly, I started off making fine art, went to art college to be a fine artist, a painter, ended up discovering books as a result of that. And so to have these two separate careers where I make from start to finish, beginning, middle, and ending books that work on the format of turning a page, and then there's a whole bunch of other projects like paintings or sculptures or collages that are more about, they don't have to be as rigid as a book would be, and they can be kind of one-off and more about asking questions. But I spend half my time making fine art, and some of it is portraiture but used to another end. Some of it is sculptural to make a political point. I'd say I'm a conceptual artist because it's the idea is always first, and then sometimes I work figuratively, sometimes I work abstractly. Doesn't really matter. But all of what I do is tied together, and all comes from the same brain. Yeah. This sense of how stories unite everybody. How stories are some of the most important things that people have, but also this sort of this thirst to understand our world, and this sense of curiosity that drives us forward. So all of the work comes from that, and I'm going to end it there because I could talk all night.
Can I ask you though about the Highline exhibit recently?
Oh yeah, well that was great. I managed to make a.
that a little bit of a crossover between the?
I'd say so. I'd say more and more the art is being crossover, because at the very start of my career, I felt like they had to be totally separate, because people wouldn't understand that the same person who was doing these picture books would be the same person making these fine art paintings. And so I deliberately tried to keep them separate. But more and more as I've got on and sort of gaining confidence and stopped caring what other people think or how other people define me, they've been getting closer and closer. So the Highline Park sculpture was basically an extension of Here We Are, where it was a scaled model of the Earth and the Moon, that took up over 200 feet. It was a city block. The Earth was 10 feet in diameter. And rather than writing the country names in, it was just said over and over again in the dry bits of land that people live here. And hopefully I'm going to do more projects like that going forward, where so half the time when I have an idea, I don't know whether it's going to be a book or it's going to be a piece of art. Yeah. And I just sort of flesh it out.
Someone asked there, let me just check the name on this question. This question for you. Nadyart, IART. Do you have any tips for illustrators aspiring to write their own stories for children? That's a kind of a tough question to answer, I think.
It is a tough question to answer. I think I think if you want to write your own stories, make them your own stories. But I taught at the Art College in the University of Ulster here for a while, and I found it difficult. I found it very difficult to. There are good teachers, and I don't think I'm one. But I was very blunt and very harsh. And one of the things that I would say to people was that just because you want it badly enough doesn't mean that you're good enough to get it. And if you stop caring what other people think, you've already won twice, because you no longer depend on external validation, but you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And therefore that would be my advice, was like, make work that only you could make.
Yeah. There has to be something that you can do. I mean, I spent time trying to be C.S. Lewis or Roddy Doyle. I kind of understand a story that Roddy and that I finally.
Yeah, no, it's fine to be influenced by people, but it's very important to cut off, knowing when the influence becomes something more, something heavier than that. I think that the whole idea with inspiration is that it comes from somewhere and you're not quite sure where it comes from.
Yeah, I think some people never get past the influence stage.
Yeah, but the people who never get past the influence stage don't really make work that is remembered. That doesn't resonate on that same way, because there's a nostalgic value to it, because it reminds somebody of such and such. But I always remember, who was it who said it? Like, people kept comparing this person to the next whatever, and this one person, I can't even remember whether this was in sports or music or whatnot, but this young man stood up and was like, I don't want to be the next whatever, I want to be the first.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to do that, is to remember that the way in which you see the world and feel the world, and the way in which your language works in combination with how you see the world, is your voice, and that's the only thing that you have that nobody else has.
Got one there from Charlotte Penny, who I think I know from Instagram. Hi, Charlotte. And a very simple question: will you continue to do more books like that? Yeah, I probably will. I love genre fiction, so I want to explore. Hi-Fire was a dragon noir. I think it's a new genre that I invented. So and that hopefully will be MGM TV are developing that at the moment. So that should be fun to do. Can you tell us anything about what you have coming up next, or is that?
What I have coming up? Well, I've got before we took this year off, I managed to get finished the next picture book, which will be coming out in October. And I knew I'd never hear the end of it if I'd written a book for my son and not one for my daughter. I say that jokingly, because I was feeling very, very strong emotions, different emotions from when my son was born to when my daughter was born, and again it came out of nowhere, and it's a finished picture book now called What We'll Build, and it is the subtitle is Plans for Our Together Future, and it was written quickly. Does this ever happen to you, where you write something quickly and then it almost never changes after that? It comes to you in one go, and in one sitting.
It was like that.
So that's what happened, and it was just, I was riffing on the idea of this relationship I was going to have with this young girl who's my daughter, and when it's a quite an interesting time to be raising daughters in what will hopefully no longer be a man's world, and just the idea of equality and the feminist movement that has been happening, that has been long overdue, and just the notion of what it is. And it's not even about that. It's a father-daughter relationship, but it's also about any relationship between any two people, and planning their future both through good times and bad times and dark times. And honestly, even just one of my favorite things to do is to talk with somebody about the plans, whether they happen or not. And you need somebody to hear your ideas. You need somebody to plan with. And it's a book about that. It's a book about all these things that me and my daughter are going to do together.
Well, I can't wait to get a free copy of that.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
I remember I was out with all the HarperCollins people just before. No, must have been just before you handed in the last book. Here we are, and I had seen it, and they were really trying to get out of me what it was. I don't think it's
secretive. Yeah,
I don't think it's very correct. No.
Yeah.
We just got a playful classroom there. You guys should do a picture book together. So obviously, just accidentally tuned.
Yeah,
I've actually done that. So
we have, yes. Imaginary Fred Egg was one of the most enjoyable collaborations I've ever had. It was so straightforward. It was so simple. Shouldn't by rights be that much fun and that simple. And we've talked about doing it again, and we'll pick that up again at some point in the future.
Well, our plan was to go on organically, come up with an idea rather than me just sending you something. And I love that plan. When are we going to be? We don't know now.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be Belfast based for a little while, so maybe in the coming months the lockdown restrictions won't be so strict.
Yeah, we could possibly do. So
yeah, I'm not entirely sure what my next projects are going to be. I've got a few ideas that are sort of floating around there, and interesting that I feel a real call to arms to make art at the moment about the zeitgeist change that's happening, with the idea that people can do something more with their lives towards a greater cause than rather than sort of feeling lost and you lost something.
Cookie toy.
Oh, and
sorry.
no, we're looking for the favorite cuddly toy. But just making art about this notion that everybody has a part to play in a future that humanity can survive. So even all those people who feel sort of untethered and lost right now have a part to play in a future if everybody could anchor around the same concepts and the same stories. And I think that art has a very important role to play in that, and that's something that I feel a particular calling to at the minute.
Well, art has a vital role in that. And also, I mean, what lessons are there to be learned? What have we learned? Who needs to maybe hear these lessons a bit more forcefully? Yeah, I think art has got a vital role.
And I never like repeating myself, but if we look at any of the successful governments that have been terrible in the Western world, they say the same thing over and over and over again until people believe it. And maybe that needs to be the job of people like you and me, on to say the same thing over and over and over again, more and more bluntly and more forcefully until people believe it.
Yeah, well, it would be nice if we all could somehow do that, like some kind of modern day John's Lennon or John Lennon's. I'm not sure, but I think that we have one more. Someone is saying yes. People are agreeing with that. We're getting a lot of agreement.
Good. Most people want to. It's just unfortunately, I personally think that a lot of the vitriol and the noise of hatred is coming from a very noisy minority, and I think almost massively, overwhelmingly, most people in the world are good people and want good things to happen, but feel disconnected and feel disenfranchised, and those people need more volume. Those people need more access.
Yeah, and hopefully access to something that artists can give them coming out of this pandemic.
Yes, exactly. That their voice matters. That all of our voices matter.
I was going to say something facile about leprechauns, but now I feel.
Well, you can fool some of the people some of the time. You can fool all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all the time.
You can't fool all the people.
No, it's it. You can fool some of the people all the time. You can fool all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And I think that's what we're waking up to.
I do feel that our kids are fooling us all of the time.
Yeah, but we're only some of the people.
That's right. We're only some of the people.
Yeah.
I think that's. I have to cut you off there, Oliver.
Okay. All right.
Hopefully,
After the last time we did this, we promised we'd have a glass of wine. So you know what, Owen? I'm gonna give you a call back in about half an hour. We're gonna have a glass of wine together.
Great idea.
Okay.
I
Privately.
In the fridge, that'd be lovely. But it's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Always a pleasure to chat. And thank you to Waterstones for setting this up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been quite insular and hiding in our little 2-bedroom cubbyhole here and not really engaging with the outside world. So this was a wonderful excuse to show my face and chat to you.
It's terrible that even mates we're kind of forced to go. I get so lazy and insular, so it's great. I'll say hello to.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody watching, seeing lots of comments and everything flooding in and floating by, and like
I'm supposed to be saving this, but the chances are it's going to disappear.
No, what you do is whenever you stop, a little icon comes up in the top left corner saying save.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Okay. That sounds so easy.
Or share the stories. Do that and then let somebody else record it. All right, Owen. Good luck. I'm going to leave you your tech problems. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Talk to you soon.